Okay, I'm just going to start. So yes, as Esther mentioned, my name is Kelli Mcclusky. I'm an artist from PDI Collective, the tactile media art group based on New Soil in Perth. We work with disruptive technologies and participatory gameplay, which you will see, as strategies for activating audiences and collectively grappling with an unstable 21st century. I wanted to just extend a special thanks to NAVA for being so responsive to artists' voices here today. I think that's great. Oh, I've got one of these.
Triple. Triple.
And so like that, man. Yeah, thank you for being so responsive to artists' voices. I think that's really important. Wanted to say thank you to Parliament House for letting us all through security. That was very amazing. And also to this brave and formidable bunch of players who we have here with us today. And they're going to be live play testing what we're calling, and I'm sorry Esther, I should have told you about the name change, Disobedience Rules, the Policy Edition. So just to give some context as to the origins of this work, 50 years ago, American activist Howard Zinn argued that every democratic society needs the agitational force of civil disobedience to not only hold those in power to account, but to express collective desires for change and refocus political agendas through non-violent means. Disobedience Rules is a live-action board game that aims to put this to the test by gathering together community leaders and change makers around this very play table to provoke healthy debate on the future of civil disobedience from a creative perspective. Our brief from NAVA was to work with them to develop a special edition which unpacks the politics of policy change, looking at ways in which arts policy and the arts in general can cultivate more political traction. And our brief to ourselves, I guess, was to try to be playfully agitational. So that is where our players come in. On stage today, we're super lucky to have representatives from the media, the government policy arena, obviously the leading arts advocacy body, and an independent artist. So welcome guys, I'm going to introduce them one at a time. Somebody who needs no introduction is really the campaigner, Esther Anatolitis. As we all know, CEO of NAVA, Esther is a writer and cultural critic with an interest in how art creates public space in all its forms. Welcome Esther. Gina Fairley. Gina is a writer who is interested in art that flourishes within the gaps and hyphenated spaces. She's worked extensively across Asia and the US and is the visual arts editor of Arts Hub. Welcome, Gina. Joe Toohey. Joe is the Director of Regional Arts Victoria and Treasurer of Footscray Community Arts Centre. And accepting that role, Joe has said, "It's the role as a straight white male that I was born to play." Looking forward to some serious mansplaining from you there, Joe, today. That would be great. And also, welcome. Yes, sorry, thank you. Welcome, Joe. Also, we have Hania Radbourne. Hania is the CEO of the Joe Sutherland Performing Arts Centre in Penrith, Western Sydney. Hania was formerly the head of Northern Territory Government's Arts NT, where she led policy, programs and funding, as well as delivering the Regional Arts Fund. Welcome, Hania. And we also have the wonderful Gabrielle Vivitri with us today. Gabrielle is an artist whose collaborative work is big on ethics and impact. She's the founding member of the Artists Committee, who successfully ended the NGV's commercial partnership with Wilson Security through a series of unsanctioned performative interventions. The Artists Committee's most recent project, is Arts Log, an online database for artists, by artists, that shares experiences of artist payments and negotiations. I encourage everybody to check it out. It's really an important gathering of information. But welcome, Gabrielle. All right, so the rules of the game are simple. Players will step up to the play table, roll the dice, and move their uncivil servant figurine around the play table anti-clockwise. They'll land on a category, and when they land on one of those categories, it'll trigger a question from me, a scenario or provocation to grapple with. The game categories are, and there's quite a lot to take in, sustainable truth, media misconceptions, how artists are represented in the media, sonic rights, how to be heard, how do we raise our voices, united front, group-based challenges for the whole team to enjoy, municipal unrest, how do we galvanize support collectively as an arts sector, ocular welfare, where do we need to focus our gaze, what's important at the moment, and a wild card where you can select your own category. In addition to these cards, each player has been issued with their own shoutocracy card. If you could hold them up now. Yes. If you see a player raise this card, they're in need of some serious help from you guys. Because your job, amazing audience today, in typical parliamentary fashion, is to brazenly yell out anything that pops into your head to either assist or unsettle the players. Okay? So, what we thought we could do is actually just have a live test of the shoutocracy. So we thought it'd be good to practice it so that everyone's feeling comfortable and confident with it. So if we could all just take a deep breath and close our eyes. We're going to transport our imaginations a few corridors away to the House of Representatives and insert ourselves into question time. Yes, question time. That noble democratic tradition which sees our fast-witted politicians in full intellectual flight, handing round lumps of coal and wearing burqas. Let's insert ourselves into that room and see if we can blend in. Okay, shoutocracy, if we could start with a bit of a collective murmur, which could be something like... That's very good. Great. All right, I would like us to bear in mind that the Australian Parliament actually has been labelled the rowdiest, most farcical Westminster system in the world. So, can we now try some serious, disagreeable grunts and complaints? Let's That's great. I wonder now if we could actually try
Show
to
us
use
your
our
policy.
Thanks, Mum. I wonder if we can try using our words now. And so I'll give a quick test question thrown out to the shoutocracy and you can yell it back. Okay. Why doesn't the current government have a federal arts policy?
No, lack of leadership.
Great. This is going to work so well. Okay, are we ready? Should we do it? Now everyone's freaking out behind me. Okay, great. Let's play. Thank you for that, shoutocracy. Your time will come. So we have 60 minutes to play, give or take. Let's play Disobedience Rules, the policy edition. Somebody's going to be keeping time. Esther, I was going to invite you to get the first roll of the dice and pick your uncivil servant. Buxton.
Criteria. All right.
Okay, what have we got? You've rolled it, so move it. We can move wherever you like. So maybe just start from here. What have you got?
Wild card.
That's boring. Just pick a section.
It's rigged.
All right. Sonic rights.
Sonic rights. Okay, so this is how to be heard. Can you grab your mic so we can hear you, Greg?
Sonic rights.
All right, this one's called Tactical Media, Esther. Okay, it's time for some creative intervention. You're an artist who's managed to sneak a portable Bluetooth speaker into the House of Representatives chamber during question time. What is your speaker going to communicate in order to have an impactful presence in the chamber? Just asking that one for a friend. You've got a portable speaker.
Oh my god, okay, so first of all, I put it on the dispatch box. so that it is, that's the fancy box that they come and stand on when it's their chance to speak. So it's going to whisper to them subliminally, I think, while they're speaking, and it's going to be kind of, it's going to be a range of really compelling kind of counter proposals that are just infusing the mind with ethics that are just radically like right now.
Oh God. Okay.
So it's going to be subliminal and it's going to be a bit radical.
Yes.
But it's not going to be a loudspeaker. It's going to be it's a sub
whispering, subliminal.
Look, you might call it brainwashing, but I prefer, subtle subliminal. Let's just, and then one by one, as they step up to the dispatch box, they'll come around to our way of thinking.
Great, lovely. What do we think of that, shoutocracy? Is that good to go?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Slightly unethical.
I think you can do better, Esther. Loud enough. Sit yourself back down. Come on. All right, who's up next? Joe. Joe, if you could roll the dice and then pick a figurine and then grab the mic. 4. Blue one. I need a bit more specific. Ocular welfare. Ocular welfare. Okay, so where do we need to focus our gaze? What do we need to be focused on? Okay, Joe, this one is called Scrapbook. In trying to define ourselves as professional artists, we may have unwittingly formed our own elite, creating a divide with some of our biggest grassroots supporters, the hobbyists. How do we recognise participation in the arts at all levels and create unity across our sector without bruising professional egos? You've got your shoutocracy card up your sleeve.
I do have the shoutocracy card up my sleeve. I think the statistics bear out the problem that you've identified. The most recent Australia Council report said almost a double of the amount of percentage of people in Australia who think that the arts are not for them or that they are too elitist or inaccessible. The latest local government Victoria customer satisfaction surveys say that something like 48% of people would prefer a rate cut, their services to be cut than pay more rates. And when asked what the 3 least important service areas of local government were, guess which one appeared in the top 3 for all different types of government. There is by all types I mean metro, regional, rural, all those different subcategories in Victoria. So there is the challenge I think about ensuring professional arts are supported, and as an oppositional policy person, is that I think one of the comments from yesterday was about the need for a grassroots involvement and battle. Is a carefully worded one, because I think there is a sense that divide is one that has to be that has to be overcome to make it, when Mitch is in talking about the need for those conversations to come to be heard and repeated to him from his representatives and his colleagues. That is I guess some of those statistics are the reason why. Sorry, I think you were going to ask.
Waffle.
I was. Waffle. Waffling. All I was going to
I was being an oppositional MP.
Yeah. It really bothers me though, because those statistics are really horrible, and it's like, but doesn't it? We get in the car, or we walk to work or whatever, and we listen to the radio, and we're listening to music, and we're listening to perhaps a radio station that is supported by artists that supports musical artists, or everywhere we go as members of the public, we engage with art without realising it. So why is it we're not able to communicate that? It seems so obvious. Why is it that it's the first up there in the list of 3?
NAVA's not doing their job.
Who's not?
NAVA.
NAVA.
Yeah, hopeless.
Because they haven't separated the buyers. They haven't actually understood what elitism is and where it fits. Really, what they're doing is targeting the people who buy art expensively, and it makes it kind of an unaffordable thing.
Yeah.
They don't have a clue about artists trying to survive, so
No.
there's a huge disconnect.
There is a huge disconnect. Yeah. Okay, I think we should move on. Yeah.
I think that we're actually playing into them when we say it's oppositional. Look at sport, it's not oppositional. People participate, and that's the grassroots, it's fundamental. Sport's not elitist.
Yes, it is.
No, elite sports, everyone supports it. I think we actually have to stop making it oppositional and celebrate the entire spectrum, including the professionals, but stop making it in opposition.
Great. Okay, thank you. Sit down, so thanks for that. Actually, did you want to step forward now, Maria? Yeah, I'm not going to get away with it that easily. All right, roll the dice. What do we got?
5. That's a wild card.
Great, pick a category.
Oh.
Sport.
Sustainable truth. Sustainable truth, which is media misconceptions, how we're represented by the media. Okay, Hania, this one is called Going Mainstream. You have been offered a regular arts segment on a mainstream TV current affairs show to replace the boring sports ones. Who is your first guest and why them? Mainstream TV.
Has to be Fiona Foley. I think that Fiona's statement yesterday was the most perceptive and damning of the situation of the sector at the moment. And, you know, we've all read the statistics in the Throsby reports and we've seen what's happening. It's a long-term trend. And if government doesn't address that, and we don't make sure government addresses that, then it's really critical for Australia. It's terrible. You know, our culture's going that way, not that way, which is not the way we want to go. So let's make it plain. We've got mainstream TV. Let's hear it. Let's hear it from the artist who's actually suffering and say, no, I'm a leading artist and I can't continue my practice. There's nothing more poignant than that.
Great.
Time for a press release.
Okay, great. Thank you, shoutocracy. Thank you. Would you like to sit down? Next player, who we got? Roll that down for everyone. Two. Not a high roller. That's me. I'll be the short one.
2. Sonic Rights.
Sonic Rights, how to be heard. Okay. Here we go. This one's called Redub. Yes! Okay. Gabrielle. In 2015, in response to artists boycotting the Sydney Biennale, due to the festival's main sponsors' involvement in the offshore processing of asylum seekers, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is quoted as saying, "I think the artists have done this, have potentially driven a stake, not through the asylum seeker policy, I can assure you of that, but through the heart of the Biennale itself. I think it's extraordinary, the sheer vicious ingratitude of it all." Okay. All right. Gabrielle, grab your microphone. You have 60 seconds. You might want your mic so we can hear you.
Do I have to be Mitch?
No, you are Malcolm. You have 60 seconds to replace that quote with your own statement, which I'm feeling will be quite poignant, communicating what you wish had been said instead at that volatile time. What do you wish you would have said?
Okay. So I'm Malcolm. Hello, I'm Malcolm. Look, I know that my dear friend Luca Belgiorno-Nettis was very much upset by the slighting of his generosity over time. However, it must remain to be said that when artists and activists come together, they can influence the landscape of this nation. That Belgiorno-Nettis's pride is nothing compared to the damage that was done to his company. He acted properly when he withdrew his 11.7% share in Transfield Services. He acted properly when he revoked the license to use the Transfield name and logo. It destroyed Broad Spectrum, and to be honest, it should have destroyed Broad Spectrum, because participating in these industries is no longer viable, and it is no longer viable that our arts institutions associate themselves and support and provide marketing and platforming for the evil doings of our time.
Thank you. Oh, somebody's lost their shoutocracy. Okay, moving on. Sorry, Gina.
Clearly, I'm the last one standing.
Yeah.
Dice.
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 It's a game.
Okay, orange.
Sonic rights. Okay, cool. All right, here's your
Argy on that square.
question, Gina. This one's called Pussyfoot. At the 2018 FIFA World Cup final, Pussy Riot invaded the pitch during the match to highlight freedom of speech issues in Russia. At the AFL Grand Final, you have a team of artists embedded in the MCG. Around 6.5 million people will be tuned in at home. What creative action will you take to turn this captive audience on to the arts? So not to antagonize, it's about developing support. What creative action can you do?
Well, these sporting arenas celebrate the wave. So I think in terms of a collective action of artists and activists, a wave sort of makes sense. So I think they need to take over one of the video boards, the big screens,
Oh yeah.
and collectively point action to that screen, which will have some sort of punchy rollout of an image
Right.
and message.
A message.
Yeah.
What would that message be?
Oh man, if we all stand together, we're more visible, and if we all stand together, we can make arts and culture part of who we are every day, just like this event.
Yeah, great. That's a long message. Did anyone have a shorter version? Would you like to say it?
Another one.
Go.
Yeah, have a map of Australia and,
Map of Australia.
and the text says, give it all back.
Give it all back. Clarity. Thank you, Richard.
Simply artists matter.
What he said. Artists matter.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Great, thanks guys. Let's move on. Who was next? Esther.
United Front.
Oh, it's a group-based challenge. I feel like we need a theme tune. We'll get to that later.
We're going to make one up.
Yeah. Okay, this one's called Face It. Let's face it, Esther. The media salivate whenever a politician's true self seems to break through their carefully managed image. I'd like to invite all of your fellow players here to please pull a face to the audience that expresses your true feelings about your elected government's position on arts and culture. So we're going to do I'm going to count you down. Like 3, 2, 1, and then you're going to do it and hold it so that somebody can take a picture. Sounding going to be great, thank you. All right, so we're going to pull a face that expresses our true feelings about our government's position on arts and culture. 3, 2, 1, go. That's quite dramatic, Gabrielle. Have we got a winner amongst all of that? Yeah. What's going on there, Esther? Like, what? Yeah. Face palming.
Really? Really?
Yeah, great. Nice, I like that. Okay, that was a quick one. Let's move on. I'm trying to get through as many as we can. Who's up next? Thank you.
Sonic rights.
Sonic rights. Well, that's popular. Okay, how to be heard. Grab your mic, Joe. This one's called Boss Lady. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has maintained her arts portfolio and made it clear that the arts are an inseparable part of what it is to be human. She's working towards integrating arts and culture into all areas of New Zealand society. The question is not about why don't we all just move there. How do we inject this same sense of value in Australia? It's such a massive question. Sorry.
Can I use the shoutocracy one with this?
Oh, great, do it.
To see how this works.
Yeah.
So the idea is that I put it up,
Yeah.
and people can shout out.
I have no idea. But that's
Yeah, right. It sounds like it. Shoutocracy sounds like you shout it out.
Yeah.
So.
Okay,
Yeah,
the
so-
question is, sorry, yes. Jacinta Arden, we've maintained her arts portfolio. She's integrating arts and culture into all areas of New Zealand society. How do we inject the same sense of value in Australia?
Basic income for artists.
Change our politician.
Basic income for artists.
Arden for PM is a good one.
Any more?
Make work, talk and run.
Paid work.
Make work, lots of work.
Make work.
Get it out there. Talk, write.
Make work, get it out there.
Not war.
Make art, not war.
Artists
Artists in schools as permanent residents.
empowerment.
Establishing. STEM should be STEAM, nice one.
Yes. Resident artists in Parliament House.
Resident artists in Parliament House, yes.
Support the arts party.
Support the arts party, that's okay. We'll move quickly on.
Value our living artists.
Value our living artists, great. Any more? Any more? That seems to cover quite a lot of ground.
Billet politicians with artists.
Billet politicians with artists. That's genius. Thank you. Great. Sorry, who was our next player? Go, Hania.
Roll again.
Sorry.
Municipal unrest.
Oh, great. First one we've got municipal unrest, which is how do we galvanise support? Okay, this one's called Intern. In 1966, the Artist Placement Group began infiltrating industry and commercial organisations with an artist embedded. That's so funny, that just came. With an artist embedded. They could radically shift the ways of thinking on how different institutions function. Name a ministerial portfolio that would benefit from an artist's perspective and why? Needs to be one.
Environment.
Environment, yeah. I think you put artists into environment, and you do that because artists show a different way of analysing a problem and depicting it, and they're great communicators, and maybe that artwork and that artist can cut through where logic, science, scientific reports and everything else isn't making an impactful change on people's thinking.
Great.
No, put them in treasury.
Treasury won't even know those are creative accountants and they actually don't see sense anyway, so I don't think Treasury would notice.
Health. Health. We've got a health yell out. What was that one? Industrial relations. There's a lot. Defense. I was thinking with Mitch here earlier, you know, maybe the arts. Anyway, might be worth a try.
What about correction?
A lot of suggestions. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. Education. Still going. We're going to move on now. All of them. All of them.
Alright, 3. 1, 2, 3. Wild card.
Pick a category.
Municipal unrest.
Municipal unrest. And to galvanise support. Okay. Oh God, I cannot believe this. This one's called Vicious Ingratitude.
Just rub
I
it
can do
in.
that.
What's going on here? Okay, I need to present you, Gabrielle, with your ethical compass.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind, just for the audience's sake, explaining what each of those categories say. First.
Okay, so I can tell what my answer's going to be already. Okay, so decline the money, donate the money, take the money and run, kick up a stink.
All right. So, as you may have guessed, this is the Ethical Compass Challenge. It's time to find out where you, as an artist, Gabrielle, where does your ethical compass lie? Here's your dilemma. You've received a commission to exhibit at a prestigious arts festival. The festival's major sponsor is the notorious Adani Group, with its delightful track record of overseas prosecutions, allegations of corruption, fraud, and money laundering, just to name a few. But this is the only gig you have this year, and it will provide you with a much needed income to pay your rent. What do you do?
Okay, firstly, do I need to spin or can I just
Oh, you can spin
respond
it
from
if
the
you
heart?
want.
Okay, well, let's see
You
what the
can't spin it.
spinner says and then it'll maybe provide me something to kick against or go with. Donate the money.
Donate
no.
the money.
No.
You want to say it again?
It's no point in taking the money and donating it to a better cause because the bad
Wouldn't it
that
clean
Adani's doing.
Would that clean it?
No, absolutely. I mean, there's obviously no such thing as clean money, but the damage that Adani can do will far outweigh what that same amount of money can do in an opposite scenario. So I would collectivise it first. It's not just about me, but it's about hearing from what my colleagues also think. And I would not participate, but I would also make that participation obvious, that lack of participation obvious. So,
how do you mean?
So it would have to not just be a withdrawal, not just be an absence, but it would have to be manifest in some way. So the best way to manifest it with Adani would be to really show what coal can do, to kind of visualise that. So I would set up a stand out the front, and I give credit for this idea to my partner and collaborator, Will Foster. We would sell ice coal. We would give ice coal out free to show how desperate Adani is to wash their image and to give incentives for Australia to accept coal as a really viable, excellent economic industry for Australia to be investing in. So all the patrons at the opening would be given a free cone of coal ice cream, and their mouths and teeth would become kind of imbued with this kind of black residue, and as they smile and schmooze, they would have dribbles of coal down their chins, and the next day they would shit coal, and they would not forget that Adani is destroying the planet.
Who's up next, Gina? Roll away.
Unified Front.
United Front.
United
That's
Front.
okay. Okay, this is our group-based challenge. Oh, great. Okay, this is called Goodie Bag. Okay, inside here, this is a bureaucratic goodie bag, which looks suspiciously like a laundry bag, but we'll just move swiftly on. Inside this, if I can just hand that over and you guys don't look and just pick something. Each of you need to reach into this bureaucratic goodie bag and pull out a familiar tool used by government agencies to shift public opinion. Once you've picked one, move it along. They're all labelled. Your challenge is, you can sit back down if you like, Gina. Your challenge is, and I'll have to move the mic around, to tell us how you would use this tool. Okay? So if we could just go through and see what you've got, they should all be labelled.
I have a publicity stunt.
A publicity stunt, if you could raise that up.
A task force.
A task force. Esther has her own task force, people.
A TV campaign.
Yes, a TV campaign.
A press conference.
Press conference for, yes, Gabrielle.
And a diversion tactic.
A diversion tactic. Bit slippery, that one. Who do I hear from first? Nobody? Who do I know? Let's just work our way down. Okay, so you have a, what is that?
A publicity
It's a
stunt.
publicity stunt, that's right. What would you do if you had a publicity stunt at your disposal?
And what am I using the publicity stunt for
You were
again?
using
Sorry.
it to talk about the significance of the arts and the art sector in Australia.
Significance of the art sector in Australia. Why is the shoe?
For shoe throwing.
Oh,
That's
it's
not
the
a
shoe
weird one, is
throwing.
it? Shoe throwing. It's a thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was thinking more like chicken suits and things like that.
All right.
Yeah. So a publicity stunt to raise awareness of the role of arts and culture in our. If we're going to be throwing shoes, could they be Australian-made and designed shoes?
It doesn't
Could
have to
they
be a
be?
shoe.
I know, but I've got the shoe in my hand now. It feels like a useful prop for the tool. So that could be a start for it, I guess. The tools that we're using as a publicity stunts could be in and of themselves the artistic object.
Okay. Moving swiftly on.
All right, task force. Yesterday, in response to the news that there is another efficiency review of public broadcasters that's about to be launched, I facetiously, but actually quite seriously, tweeted what we urgently need is an efficiency review of efficiency reviews. To see how efficient they really are. And so for the task force, I put together a force of artists to review task forces and really look at what do they come up with, what are the ethics that are underlying them, what stops the decision making, and what stops the action, and how could an artist-led task force actually lead to real action.
Great, thank you, Esther. What have we got hanging out?
I've got a two-part TV campaign. The first part, all art has been eliminated from life. So there is no music, there are no books, there's no clothing except maybe plain underwear, and you've got the bleak streets, so the museums and the galleries are closed because there's no art on the wall. You've got 30 seconds of bleakness, and the second part, you start with the bleakness and you fill it with the artists and actual images and designs and music.
Oh, that needs to happen.
That was such a perfect preamble to what I was going to suggest, so thank you. So I've got a diversion tactic, and I've taken this a little bit, not quite what you might expect. I'm not trying to distract or conceal from what's going on, but I would actually like to divert the attention that's put into creating all the amazing programs and exhibitions and projects that we all participate, and actually stop it all for a month, maybe. No more public display. To divert all of that energy into actually figuring out how we're going to make it sustainable. I'm talking about an art strike, an artist strike on public display for a considerable amount of time, one that we would get the institutions on board with, and it would, that diversion time would allow us to reconsider what we're doing and have that conversation in the institutions, and that conversation be pushed up through the funding bodies into our governments as well. And I'm serious about that.
Great. Thank you.
I'm staging my own press conference for a change. Press conferences are always so contrived in the sense that they are rolling out a feed of sound bites and people up front. So my action would be total disobedience in the sense of encouraging all those comms and media staff who actually massage those schedules and put those people up there to actually create dissension by throwing curveballs in there, throwing an artist amongst the panel, throwing an agitator amongst the panel. So the conversation and the feed to the news is from the outset disrupted, and alternatives rather than that kind of balance, never really balanced, is actually ruptured in a way.
Great, thank you. Thank you guys. Really thank you. Who's up next? Shall we roll on? Let's just stick those props under. Is it you, Esther?
Is it me? Oh, okay. You got the grab bag. Anyway, whatever.
Can I suggest something?
Oh, Gabrielle, go on then. Do you want the mic? Oh my God, that would be so great! Tag team with an audience member. Who wants that?
Tag team with media. All right.
Anyone? Anyone? Oh no, everyone's hands are down. Oh, there's somebody. Who is there?
Oh my God.
At the back. Would you like to tag team?
Yeah. Do you want to take
Yes, no? Great. Mixing it up, people. That's great. Fantastic. Thank you.
Come on, there's something wrong government here.
Great.
No one's old enough to be
Richard.
No one.
Oh, there's Richard.
Yes! We need another female.
Lady, one
We've got a little bit of maleness happening. I reckon. Otherwise, Esther's on her own. Thank you, Katie. If I could actually, Esther, could you pass the mic along? People can just introduce who they are. Just who you are, what you do, that would be great.
Sure. David Livingstone, cartoonist.
David?
Yep.
Khaled Sabsabi, artist.
Sorry, what was that?
Khaled Sabsabi.
Khaled?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Richard Bell, artist.
Richard.
Kelli, speculative artist
Katie.
and former mayoral candidate for City of Melbourne.
Yes, perfect.
Kasper Schmidt-Mung, I'm an artist too.
Kashma?
Kasper.
Kasper. Thank you. All right, new players. Let's do it. Who wants to go first? Go, Kasper.
Roll the dice.
Roll a dice. Oh, we need to remember whose figurine was who. Why don't you just pick whichever one you want?
Municipal unrest.
Municipal unrest. Okay, which is, you can grab the microphone, who's got it.
Hello.
Okay, great. Municipal unrest, how to galvanize support. Okay, Kasper, your question is called crowd fatigue. You have just received your 20th crowdfunding campaign request, and while you used to put $50 into a friend's project, you're now down to 5 or 10 for each, and only when you can afford it. If crowdfunding is only reaching friends and family, what other strategies can artists use to galvanize financial support? Have any ideas on that front, please?
So, to get money from the community, to try and...
Or is there another way?
Yeah.
Is one option. A one-off.
I mean, we're taught to sell objects, I think, but I think in most cases that's just ridiculous. I've tried to sell objects my whole life, and it's never been an easy run. I've been, had a lot of problems with that. What would I suggest to do differently? I think that the best way for artists to make money in society is to be injected into the community. You know, I mean, we've been talking about residencies and placements in institutions that don't have artists.
Yep.
My mother's an art therapist, and she's just created a career for herself by injecting herself into, in Adelaide, the health community, like as an art therapist, and she's made a job for herself as an artist.
So you're talking about carving out your own job.
Yeah, exactly. Carve your own job.
Alongside the job that you're doing already.
Yeah, exactly.
As an artist.
Yeah. But I mean, you can use or help the community to understand your practice and then facilitate your practice. I think.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Richard's throwing his shoutocracy away.
Does anybody have something they want to say?
A Lamington Drive, thanks.
Bake sale.
Exactly. It's just so radical. Anybody? Yes.
Cut money out except for artist fees. No materials, no venues, fuck insurance, only artist fees.
Cut money out.
Less money.
Cut money out except artist fees. Right. Interesting. Wow. Cool. Okay. Great. That's that one. Dealt with. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to have bake sales. Okay, moving on. Katie.
Ocular welfare.
Ocular welfare, okay. Which is the, where do we need to focus our theories? All right, Katie, this one's called wound. Australia is the only Commonwealth nation without an Indigenous treaty. The recently rejected Uluru Statement from the Heart, which sought to embed an Indigenous voice to Parliament in the Constitution, was referred to as too ambitious by Prime Minister Turnbull. What can the arts sector do to enact a voice to Parliament that leads towards treaty and truth-telling? On the spot.
I think that we should be, within our own community, like lobbying every arts institution to have a First Nations person on their board as a starter.
Yep.
So that we can represent as a community that we are putting this first, because from there we can actually show other institutions that we're a progressive institution.
Yep. Simple start.
Another press release, we need to put something out as a result of this which actually supports a bipartisan approach and totally debunks what came out of his mouth last night.
A press release, okay?
We need something.
You're just obsessing over the press
Yeah,
release.
because I want to.
Are you from the press?
No, I don't.
Ah.
But I actually think that often we miss opportunities. We've got an opportunity. We could go into question time and storm
Yeah.
the public gallery, for God's sakes.
We can only do that once.
I'm
not saying we shouldn't.
No, but just something which
Yes.
actually is a public support.
Yes.
One from the arts.
Public support, thank you. I'm sorry I'm having to repeat what you say so that we can get it down. Great, does anybody else on the panel want to contribute to that? What can the arts sector do to enact a voice to Parliament that leads towards treaty and truth-telling?
I just suggest that they give it all back.
Give it all back?
Yeah.
How would you do that?
That's not for me to think. You want us to give you all the answers to all your questions.
I want to know how you're going to do it.
Steal our land from us.
How are you
Crush
going
our
to do it?
culture, and then you want us to find a way out for you.
Not me, personally.
Oh,
You roll. Okay, roll. Let's do it.
4.
What have we got, Richard?
This bugger again.
Wild card. You can pick whichever one you like.
What is it?
What have we got? Yellow. Sustainable truth.
Sustainable
truth. Which is how the media represents us. Okay. Okay. And this one's called Mirror, Mirror, Richard. It's time to face the ugly. It's time to face the ugly rumours. You've got 30 seconds to list as many common misconceptions about artists, how the media sees us, how other industries see us, how we're perceived by the public. You need to just let it all out in 30 seconds.
Oh.
Your time starts now.
Okay. Lazy, whinging, layabouts, rolling around, elitists, God forbid, like that.
Drug
that we would have
junkies.
elitism.
Drug takers, junkies.
In a country that obsesses over sport, like that. Elite sports, you have
10 seconds.
lazy. I've done lazy. We're a good
5
bad-
seconds. There must be more.
Useless.
So, yeah, social.
Irrelevant. Useless.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Perfect. Time's
No,
up.
nothing.
Thank you. Just let it all out, people. Okay, great. Off you go. Doesn't matter. Really don't think it matters anymore.
I was going to win.
Sustainable truth. Okay, which is, again, media misconceptions. Okay, is this Kelli? Yeah. Kelli. Okay, this one's called Poser. Inspired by the artful pranksters, the Yes Men, you decide to undertake some identity theft by falsely representing Arts Minister Mitch Fifield on national television. What do you commit to doing on their behalf, Khalid? What do you commit to doing on Mitch Fifield's behalf? Senator Fifield, thank you for joining us today. I believe you have an important statement to make to the arts community here. We're all gathered at Parliament House.
That's a tough one. I
Yeah.
think. I mean, everyone had to sit through that and be, spoken down to. So what I'll do is I'll use the green card. Yeah. I'll come it this way, and you have 30 seconds, and you can just shout for 30 seconds.
Doubling the budget.
Let's go. Come on.
Update my hands off the ABC.
There you go. Bullshit.
Would anyone like to step up and actually take that question?
Yeah.
I'll take my hands off the ABC and the SBS.
Take your hands off the ABC. Okay. Great. Anyone? Oh, are you ready to roll again, or did you want to take on Mitch? No, you want to roll. Go. That's fine.
Why would you wish
Okay,
that?
Mitch is going away. Okay, David.
Ocular welfare.
Ocular welfare. All right, great. Which is, where do we need to focus our gaze? All right. David, the Barnaby Joyce affair shows us how easy it is for politicians to exploit our shrinking media and stretch out a story that displaces coverage of issues of national importance. You're planning an impactful arts advocacy campaign, and you're worried about getting clear air. But perhaps affairs are good for business. A question to you is, which politician should NAVA have to sleep with in order to get the arts on the front pages?
Any thoughts? Sorry, Esther just let you know she's putting out for the arts. Did I do that?
Putting out for the arts, yeah.
And you've done a great deal for it. Thank you so much.
Which politician should NAVA have to sleep with in order to get the arts on the front page? I don't know. That's your interpretation, I guess. I've got lots of suggestions there. I didn't hear that one. Treasurer.
Orgy.
And orgy with all of them.
Is this the people who run NAVA or all of...
Orgy would make sense.
Wait a minute, who would be the one that we all have sex with? I did like Christopher Pine as a suggestion.
Christopher Pine. That really was taking one for the team, really.
If it has to be me, then I'll do it.
Okay.
I'm a cartoonist, and there's so few ways that I feel I can really give back to society.
Artistic courage. Thank you. Round of applause. Thank you, guys. All right. Time has gone.
That was an unintentional mic drop.
Oh, mic drop. Okay, who's next?
Should we switch out?
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Anybody else want to step up? Girls to the front, please. Can we have some more ladies?
Alex.
Don't be terrified. Okay, I can see we have Janet Carter, we had an artist stepping up here. What's your name? Miranda from the Countess Report, that's right. So we've got Miranda. Anybody else want to swap out? Miranda, Janet, Alex. Where are you from, Alex?
Claudia.
Alex from Canberra. National Director of Museums Network Australia. Welcome. Thank you. So we have Miranda, Janet, and Alex. We need two more players, please, or I will grab Esther back. Thank you. Play.
Someone from an RE.
Someone from an RE.
Oh, Ben.
Great. What was your name, sir? Ben? All right. One more player, or I'm just going to roll with it. The last player. Great. Thank you, sir. What was your name? Liam. Oh, Liam from Constance. Wicked. All right. Okay, Miranda, would you like to roll? Miranda, can I get you to roll? Thank you.
Sustainable truth.
Sustainable truth.
Wait, do I take one of these? Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that?
Doesn't matter. That's all falling apart. Just.
Municipal unrest, great, which is the How to Galvanize support. If I can get you to grab the microphone so we can hear you. Okay, Miranda, this one's called Loved Up. Study after study shows that Australians love and want the arts, but politicians don't see its integral value, and mainstream media don't see it as newsworthy unless it raises controversy. How can the Australian public show their support for the arts in new and significant ways, Miranda?
I like the idea of a work strike, but I propose that perhaps all the women that work in the arts and women who are also taking on the larger share in other sectors of unpaid work strike as well. So perhaps we could get a bit of solidarity between some different sectors where women are doing a lot of the work that is going unpaid, and perhaps that could cause a bit of a ripple across a number of different sectors as well.
So a cross-sector strike for all women in their workplaces?
Who are, I guess, performing work that is undervalued. I mean, we do some workshops on how to quantify that, but that is a big problem in the arts, and if it was women that were to go on strike, we would be left with not a huge amount of administration, education, so knowledge dissemination, and also, a lot of the mechanics that happen.
Great, excellent answer, thank you. Three. Which is the orange, which is Sonic Rights, How to Be Heard. Okay, Liam. Oh, Liam. This one's called Drunk Tweets. Oh dear. Oh dear, Liam. You fired off some candid and inelegant tweets last night to the new chair of the Australian Council. You're going to miss a turn while you wallow in regret. I'm sorry.
Our voice is being suppressed again.
Roll again. I'll let you know. I want you to roll again.
The people want.
The people want. Shoutocracy spoken.
To United Front.
Yes. Okay, this is a group-based challenge for everyone. You can sit down, Liam, if you like. Okay, here we go. All right. All of the public art in Canberra has mysteriously melted overnight. Yes. We need to use the modelling balloons provided to sculpt a replacement that creates a vision for the future of politics in our nation's capital. Okay, I'm going to give you each a balloon and a time limit. You want the...
Well, that's what I was going to do, but you've blown it now.
Okay, so we are making, just to recap, and I'm sorry about the noise, this is almost unbearable. Anyone want extra?
Are we working together?
You can if you want. You have got 60 seconds to make a replacement that creates a vision for the future. I'm really enjoying this. Of politics in our nation's capital. Time starts now. Go. Vision for the future. Balloon down. They all sculpt their balloons, guys. They pop. Oh, I see. Go, 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 go. What have we got going on here? Something frantic. Oh, we've got one. Janet's got one. Alex is threading on hers. Alex is, this one's going to be redeveloped. How are we going over here? There's a heart. All right, I think, do we have any curators in the house? Can somebody come down?
Don't be trans exclusive.
Okay, let's talk through. We have a collaborative one here between you guys. What have we got? Wait, we need to hear you.
Well, we thought we could restructure things a little bit, and so we dismantled the current structure by popping, taking the hot air out.
I see.
Yeah, we saw a lot of that before from Senator Field, so we kind of
take the hot air out.
Took the hot air out, went back to kind of bare bones, and we started from the ground up.
Nice.
Yeah,
Great.
Stacking up pieces.
Great. What do we think of that, Alex?
Well, I'm fairly similar actually. So putting them at the bottom of the pile as they should be. There are different interpretations, but that's the one I'll say today.
Okay, bottom of the pile. Ouch. Janet.
So I had, thank God, some help from the audience because, you know, as one of the few lesbians here, I forgot how to make a vagina. So
it's trans exclusive.
This is reclaiming women's space, women's sculptural space within Canberra.
Great, beautiful. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Dave. And Ben.
And mine was just a heart. Going back to Peter White. Let's just be good people. Let's think and be, a good society.
Beautiful. Thank you, I've totally forgotten who was next. Great, thank you. Okay, Alex, roll away. How are we going for time? Oh my God, I could play this all day.
In the middle.
Ocular welfare, is it the blue one?
Yeah.
Okay. Ocular welfare, if you can grab your mic, great. All right, so this is, where do we need to focus our gaze? Alex, this one's called flip-flop. First there was going to be an arts policy, and now there isn't. And years of sector consultation have gone to waste. Everyone's angry and frustrated and tired and poor, which makes it hard to focus on what's needed. With a federal election coming up, what's the first step towards regaining collective focus?
Well, that's not a hypothetical, is it?
No.
Well, the first step to gaining collective focus is, first step, things like this. So congratulations, Nava, for doing this. Second step is to understand that we can do nothing on our own. Nothing on our own. We have to collaborate in every possible way. And that is by thinking together, it's by acting together, it's by researching together, it's by doing together. That's what we have to do. We have to make those spaces to do it. We have to fund ourselves to do it. We have to be very clear about the sort of stuff we're going to focus on. And the critical thing is to not lose heart. We can't lose heart. We just have to do it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we're running out of props and questions. Janet. Oh, United Front. Okay, so this is a group-based challenge again. Okay, this one's called Excellence. Do you want to grab a mic and sit down? Okay. Only 62% of the Australia Council's $177.1 million budget goes to the 28 major performing arts companies in uncontested recurrent funding. Only 62. The NPA review is currently underway with the intention of strengthening its framework. My question for everybody, I guess, here on the panel is, what should the review recommend? What should the NPA review recommend? Janet, you can kick it off.
Okay, I come from a theatre background, so...
Let's bring out to the people. Let's get out of those established buildings and institutions and bring it to the streets.
Great, thank you, Ben. Alex, NPA review. What should it recommend?
Expand, grow the bloody pie. Don't fight each other. You've actually got to grow it. That's what we have to fight for.
Yep. Grow the pie. Liam.
We actually solved this one this morning on the car ride here. We solved this question.
Oh, you're kidding? Great.
Yeah, we decided that all the artist runs are going to get together, take that money and put on a Moulin Rouge that travels around every RE in Australia. So that's the recommendation. We're currently doing casting calls for Ulf McGregor's role.
Good to know. Thank you. 177.1 million go to the 28 major performing arts companies.
So I think better partnerships then from those institutions that are getting that money with smaller grassroots institutions, performing arts and outside of the performing arts sector.
Can we hear Miranda?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yep, sorry.
So that some more innovative modelling, I think, as to how we can, benefit the whole sector, and also stress that they're not in silos. The information that's created, the cultural material that's created within the performing arts doesn't just stay there. It's part of a kind of, which should be anyway, a broader discourse.
Yeah.
So I think some really exciting kind of partnerships, whether it's through education, public programming, exhibitions, whatever it is, some cross-cultural stuff would be great.
Great, thank you. Janet actually does want to mic right now, you feel about it.
Having come from a theatre background, I can at least to some extent speak on behalf of those major theatre companies. They feel incredibly poor and incredibly hard done by. I know. But it's genuine, that they feel that they're struggling. And I think that that's consistent across the arts. And the only thing that I want to say is, We need to look down and we need to protect our most vulnerable. So yes, we can say we can try and collaborate with those companies. They're going to protect what they have. And that's the nature of it. I've worked there. I know that that's what they do. We also, as artists, you know, within our silos, try to protect what little we have. I'm asking us to change that, to turn that upside down, to be a little bit socialist, less lefty, feminist, and to actually look to those who are most vulnerable first and protect those who are most vulnerable first. Right. So yes, we're going to struggle to get any of that 62%. You know, we can take the little bit that we have and we can turn that upside down.
Great, thank you.
Offer them 30%.
30%. Negotiation. Okay, thank you. Oh, it's all gone very quiet. Do we need to wrap it up? I think we do. Esther's come. Sorry, I'm getting carried away. Okay, can we have a big round of applause? Shout out to you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Wicked. We're available for weddings, parties. Oh.
No, you're fine. Thanks.
So thank you so much to Kelli Mcclusky from PBI Collective. And everyone who shoutocracy and everyone who was brave enough to come down and take part, thank you. So tell us about this game in the context of PBI's work.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said in the intro, it had its first iteration in South Africa earlier this year, as a split site work that took place. The board game was played at a TV studio with some grassroots leaders from different disciplines, not artists at all, actually much more community leaders. And the essence of the work, as I said at the beginning, was to look at kind of unpacking the potential for creative civil disobedience. And I guess really coming off the back of the Occupy movement and its kind of self-proclaimed failures of kind of, you know, these old paradigms of protest and occupying aren't working anymore, then is there anything new that we can generate? So that's where it was coming from as in its essence, I suppose. So in South Africa, we gathered together community leaders at a TV studio. There were little situational cameras embedded. There was a big board, it was like a poker table actually. So it had kind of quite a presence. We had an amazing Sutu transgender MC who was Madam Speaker, and they kind of MC'd the game in a much better way than I just did. So simultaneously, whilst this is being filmed in a TV studio out in the public space in Bloemfontein in South Africa, which is a really strange area of South Africa, but has a very rich history in terms of its lineage or its relationship to government and judiciary, actually. In the public space there was a massive, great big TV screen where this was being shown, and we had these uncivil servants were actually real artists who were out on the streets in that public space, and we had the option, our Madam Speaker could, if she felt as though the answers that were coming up, completely different set of questions by the way, but the answers that came up, it was all about, okay, it's all very well to have new ideas and to have crazy thoughts, but how do we put them to the test? What is their real world impact? So the job of the artists was when the Madam Speaker decided that it was good to take it to the streets, she pressed this button, the music played, take it to the streets, and then the uncivil servants had to try to interpret that response and try to put it to the test. And kind of, it was about kind of crash testing new forms of creative civil disobedience right there and then. So, you know, I won't say it was a perfect